Before we get rolling in today's show, I was curious. So let me know, how many Knicks games from start to finish did you watch this year? We did 70 watch parties on the channel, and I probably watched another 7 or 8 games at the crib from start to finish. So I'm anywhere from 77 to 78. But I want to hear from you. How many full Knicks games did you watch this year? Could the Milwaukee Bucks be trading Giannis Antetokounmpo? We're going to break down that idea in today's show. You're watching Knicks Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Marshall Green. NBA insiders across the association continue to bring up the idea that if Giannis does not pick up that player extension contract this summer before the season gets rolling, those trade rumors are really going to heat up. And it really sounds like they believe there is a real chance he could be on the move. I don't think a Giannis trade, I will go as far as to say, a Giannis trade will not happen this offseason. But next offseason, those rumors will definitely heat up if he does not pick up that extension. This is what Ian Begley of SNY said yesterday on the putback. He said, quote, "I'm keeping an eye on what happens in Philadelphia and where things go in Milwaukee." It sounds crazy, right? That the idea that Giannis would ever leave the Bucks, but I've just heard too much from people that I trust. I would just keep an eye on that. And this is not the first time that Ian Begley has brought up really the Knicks watching the Milwaukee Bucks. And he's mentioned that it's not just the Knicks, it's teams across the association. So I don't want to put words in Ian's mouth, but yesterday he was asked who should the Knicks keep their eye on, something along those lines. And he brought up Giannis and he mentioned Philadelphia. And then 2-3 days ago, he also said this about Giannis. He said, quote, "Who would the Knicks pursue next season if they don't make a big move this offseason? That's unclear." But it's worth noting here that several teams are keeping an eye on the situation in Milwaukee concerning the future of Giannis, as we've previously noted. Antetokounmpo is eligible for an extension with Milwaukee this summer. Financially, it makes sense for Antetokounmpo to wait on signing an extension or new contract because he can earn more money if he does wait, but he runs a little bit of a risk. I don't know, quote, if the Knicks are one of those teams keeping an eye on the Antetokounmpo situation, but I'd imagine most teams are monitoring. I think that's key right there. Most teams are monitoring it. He said he doesn't know if the Knicks are, but it's not just Ian Begley that continues to talk about Giannis and his current situation with the Milwaukee Bucks. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, or back in the NBA postseason, Brian Windhorst said this about the Bucks and Giannis. Quote, "Is Giannis going to extend? I don't know." And that uncertainty is what the league is watching right now. The New York Knicks, for example, they got 97% of their attention on the Miami Heat, 3% of their attention on Milwaukee. What's going on over there? He also said this. He said, "I think it is unlikely Giannis extends his contract this summer. They are a late-stage contender with a superstar in his 20s, and there are teams in the league watching very closely to see what happens with the Bucks this summer." With Windhorst and Begley talking about Giannis maybe being out of Milwaukee in a couple years, I don't think this is a pipe dream anymore for the Knicks to get in on the Antetokounmpo sweepstakes. I believe Giannis, if he does not pick up that extension, we are going to really start to see some heat and some smoke come out of Milwaukee. And I don't think it's out of the possibility that if he doesn't pick it up, he could no longer be a Buck in a couple of years. I do want to ask this question, though, because we have some trade ideas, a trade idea for Giannis coming around the corner. I'll tell you why I think the Knicks should go all in for him, but I want to ask you this question. Is Giannis a top 2 player in the NBA? I believe it's Jokic and Giannis, but I want to hear from you. Is the Greek Freak a top 2 guy in the NBA? If Giannis does not extend his contract before the season, the Knicks should start the negotiations, at least start calling the Milwaukee Bucks, start working behind the scenes. And I would not be shocked if Worldwide Wes and Leon Rose have not already done so. And if he does not pick up that contract extension and they get word of mouth that maybe Giannis wants to leave Milwaukee, and like Stephen A. said a couple of months ago, he would not be shocked if Giannis wants to play for the Knicks. And if that is true, Leon Rose and the New York Knicks will and should go all in for Giannis. There are not many people walking this earth that are better at the sport of basketball than Giannis Antetokounmpo, a multiple-time MVP, a guy that's always in the Defensive Player of the Year discussion, and a guy that's won the NBA championship and won an NBA Finals. I mean, when you just look at the raw numbers and the stats for Giannis over the past 4 regular seasons, it's absolutely incredible. He has an average less than 28 points per game in the last 4 years. He has 2 seasons pretty much of 30 points per game. He's going to get you 11, 12, 13 rebounds per night. He's also going to give you about 5.5 assists, and he's one of the most efficient players in NBA history that's not a center. He shot 55% from the field the last 2 seasons, 57% in 2020, and 55% in 2019. But what I love about Giannis is he's great in the regular season, but it also seems like he picks up his level of play in the postseason. This past year, dealing with a back injury, I'm not going to hold what happened to get for him against the Miami Heat. Against him, did not play well, but I believe the injuries were a big part of that. Still gave you 23, 11, and 5 on 53% from the deck. Well, in 2021, he gave you 31.7, 14 rebounds, 7 assists, and 50% in 12 games played. And in that championship run, he gave you 30 points, 13 rebounds, and 5 assists. But what's even more special about this, Giannis was electric in the NBA Finals, and he was so far and ahead the best player on the court. And that's when I felt like he stepped into being the best player in the association. In that 6-game series against the Phoenix Suns in the NBA Finals a couple years ago, the man averaged 35, 13, 5, 2 blocks, and 62% from the field. Had one of the best closeout games in NBA history to win the title, wound up winning the Finals MVP. It's incredible how special this player is. And what's even more incredible is he's got multiple MVPs. He's got a Finals MVP. He's got a ring. And he's only 28 years old. He's not some guy that's run down and over 30, has an injury history and all that. He's 28 years old. This is the type of player you push all your chips into the middle of the table and go all in. What's the price, though? What would it cost for the Knicks to acquire Giannis Antetokounmpo? Again, I do not think and I do not believe at all that it would happen this offseason. I believe that it would happen next offseason or maybe even the year after that. What would you give up? Well, let's take a look at the roster. You could have anybody, honestly. Anybody but Jalen Brunson. And I say that because I want to keep Jalen Brunson on this team. Could they want a young R.J. Barrett? Do they prefer Julius Randle? Would they want Mitchell Robinson to be their starting center? I'm assuming they would want a lot of picks. I'm assuming they would want cheap young players, and they would want guys that have a lot of upside. So what I would say to Milwaukee is, you create the trade package. Whatever you want, we will do it. Just make sure that Jalen Brunson is still a member of the New York Knicks. Why would the Knicks go all in for Giannis? Well, if you don't know by now, he's one of the best players to ever touch a basketball. But when you look in the history books of the NBA, you need a top 30 player of all time if you are having dreams and aspirations of winning an NBA Finals. If you don't have that guy, if you don't have someone that is the face of the NBA, if you don't have someone that could be an MVP type caliber player, your hopes and dreams of winning an NBA Finals are not all that high. Let's look at the past couple of NBA champions. The Nuggets, Jokic, 2 MVPs, Finals MVP. I'd say he's top 30 all time. The Warriors, they got Steph. The Bucks, they got Giannis. The Lakers, they got LeBron. The Raptors had Kawhi. If you want to push back on Kawhi, I'm fair with that. But he was absolutely the best player in the NBA in 2019. And I believe that at the peak of his powers, he is a top 30 player of all time. 2015, 2017, and 2018 Warriors, you had Steph Curry, and you also had Kevin Durant on a couple of those teams. In 2016, you had LeBron James. In 2014, you had Tim Duncan and a young and up-and-coming Kawhi Leonard to go with Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili. In 2012 and 2013, the Miami Heat had LeBron James. In 2011, the Dallas Mavericks, they had Dirk. In 2009 and 2010, some guy named Kobe Bryant, one of the best players to ever lace up the sneaks, played for the Lakers and won 2 rings. In 2008, you had Kevin Garnett, but you also had Paul Pierce and you also had Ray Allen. That's 3 Hall of Famers. In 2007, you had Tim Duncan. In 2006, you had Dwayne Wade, Shaq, and Alonzo Mourning. In 2005, you still had Tim Duncan. In 2004, if that's the season you want to push back on, I will allow you to push back on. But you had a Hall of Famer in Ben Wallace. You had one of the best point guards in Chauncey Billups. You had Rip Hamilton. You had Tayshaun Prince. You had Rasheed Wallace. They were a stacked team, but they are the one team since 1996 that did not have a top 30 player, because in 2003, the Spurs had Tim Duncan. In 2000 and 2002, that three-peat, the Lakers had Shaq and young Kobe. 1999, you had Tim Duncan and the Admiral. And then from 96, 97, 98, you had some guy named Michael Jordan. And then the 2 championships before that, you had Akeem Olajuwon. Then the 3 championships before that, you had another guy named Michael Jordan. You need a top 30 player if you want to be hoisting up the Larry O.B. with confetti falling all over your neck. And I'll tell you this much. Giannis Antetokounmpo, he's a Fetty guy, no doubt about it. How would the Knicks acquire him, though? Well, they have some of the most draft capital built up in the NBA. The Knicks have 4 first-round picks in the 2024 NBA draft. They have 2 first-round picks in 2025. Right now, they have 8 tradable first-round picks, and they have 10 first-rounders in the next 7 years. Let's focus on 2024, though, because in that draft, the Knicks do have 4 first-round picks, but only one of them is unprotected, and that is their own first-round pick. They also own the Dallas Mavericks pick, which is top 10 protected, the Detroit Pistons pick, which is top 18 protected, the Washington Wizards pick, which is top 12 protected, and if either of these 3 picks actually don't convey, they roll over into the next year. I believe the Mavs stays top 10 protected for 1 more year, and then if that doesn't convey, it's 2 first-round picks. For the Pistons, it's like 18, 16, 14, 12, and then 10. And then I believe for the Wizards, it's 12 and then 10, and then it conveys into 2 second-round picks. You have all the draft picks that you want to trade if you really want to make a move for a superstar like Giannis. What about the players, though? Who are some of those guys you'd have to give up? I believe they would want Mitchell Robinson as a young center on a cheap, cost-controlled contract of less than $15 million per year. I put R.J. Barrett in this trade, but if you want to put Julius Randle in this trade instead, Milwaukee, you can have him. So I'm going to say Mitchell Robinson, either R.J. Barrett or Julius Randle, and then for sure they're going to want Quentin Grimes and Emmanuel Quickley. You're going to have to give up all 4 of your unprotected first-round picks, just like the Phoenix Suns had to do for KD, and I'll also give you 3 protected first-round picks. So I'm giving you, and if you want a couple of pick swaps, you can do that. Like I said, take it all, just leave us Jalen Brunson. I'll give you Mitchell Robinson, R.J. Barrett or Julius Randle, Grimes, Quickley, 7 first-round picks, and 4 of those are unprotected. Is it a lot? Absolutely. But this guy right here, he's pretty freaking good at putting some basket in a peach basket, a ball in a peach basket. What do you think, though? Would you make this trade if you were the head honcho for the New York Knicks? If you were in Leon Rose's camp, would you tell him to make the deal? Giannis for Mitchell Robinson, Barrett, Grimes, Quickley, and 7 first-round picks, 4 of those being unprotected. Let me know what you think. Type A for accept or D for decline. I'll give you my thoughts on that trade idea around the corner. But first, make sure you guys are hooked up and are repping Chat Sports and Knicks Now all summer long. And save yourself some cheddar while you're at it. Go to chatsports.com/realknicks and use the promo code SummerVibes20 and save 20% off. You can get the OG blue shirt. We got the new black shirt. It's really slick. It's really nice. Chatsports.com/realknicks. Promo code SummerVibes20. Save yourself 20% off and get yourself to chopped cheese, you filthy animals. All righty, this is what you do. You get Giannis, and you figure the rest out later. You get Giannis in New York. You have him put on the orange and blue threads with New York across the chest, and you figure it out. If you made that trade, this is what would be left, essentially, on the New York Knicks roster. You'd still have Jalen Brunson. You'd still have Miles McBride, Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart. You'd have Giannis. You'd have Randall. You'd have Hartenstein. You'd have Jericho Sims. If you want to include in Isaiah Roby or Trevor Keels, or maybe you think Jacob Toppin would be a part of this team, or Jalen Martin, sure, we can include that as well. But the thing I would do after I make that trade, I would make another trade. I would then trade Julius Randle. I would do whatever I can to get him off this basketball team because I don't think there is a world where Randle and Giannis can be on the same team. They both play the same position. So I would trade Randle. I'd try to get a wing or another guy that can be a shot creator, or maybe I try to replenish some of those draft picks. But let's just say Randle is off this team. This could be your potential starting 5. Jalen Brunson, Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, Giannis, and Isaiah Hartenstein. I believe that's a good enough roster to compete in the East, and I believe that's a good enough roster to win an NBA Finals, and I didn't even include anything that we got back in a Julius Randle trade. And I know you might be saying at this point, but Marshall, we can't get any better. We can't add any more players to this team. You'd still have 4 first-round picks through 2030, and you'd have 12 second-round picks through 2030. So you would have 16 draft picks through 2030. If you made that trade with the Milwaukee Bucks, you'd still have those 8 players we talked about. That's enough in the chamber to make another move and to continue to add to this roster. I know there's going to be some people that say, no way, no how am I making that deal, and that's fine. You are entitled to your opinion. But I think I can speak for the Knicks right here. If Giannis ever becomes available, they will do whatever it takes to make him a member of the New York Knicks. As always, I just want to say thank you guys, and I appreciate y'all for tuning in to Knicks Now by Chat Sports. If you want to continue the conversation about Giannis, hit me up over on Twitter, send me a DM, or tweet at me at @MarshallGreen_.